first week or the third week of the month, we will be discussing the first lemma of the first quarter, which is entitled The Components of Scientific Investigation. Right? For this SLEM is fair test. Before we proceed, I would like to discuss with you first that the objective of this module or SLEM. One is we have to define the fair test. At the end of this module, you'd have defined fair test. Recognize that an investigation shows for fair testing. Identify the different factors that affect fair test and identify the independent, dependent, and controlled variable. So let's start the journey and learning more through familiarization of the factors that affect problem of experiment. I am sure you're ready and excited to answer the pretest. Smile and cheer. To answer this pretest, I would like you to use another piece of paper to which you can write the answer. I'm giving you 5 seconds to answer, 10 seconds to answer each question. Number one, making sure that you change one factor at a time while keeping all other conditions the same. Is it factors? Is it variables? Is it fair test? Is it scientific method? All right. For number two, these are the things that are kept the same each time one of the trials and the experiment is repeated. Independent variables, dependent variables, controlled variables. Number three, it is the effect of the result of the experiment in what is measured. Is it independent variable, dependent variable, factors, controlled variable? This is the effect, all right? Number four, any factor that can be controlled, changed, and measured. Fair test, methods, variables, trials. Number five, these are the things that are changed or manipulated in doing the experiment. Independent variable, factors, dependent variable, controlled variables. You have to choose, write the word, because there's no A, B, C, D letters there. You have to write the answer, all right? On a clean sheet of paper. All right, so let's do some review. When you were in grade 6, you've learned that scientists and researchers use systematic approach to answer questions, confusions, and curiosity about the world around us. In order for us to have an accurate answers, they have to do something by doing an experiment. And doing the said experiment, we must consider that it should be fair. There's no bias. It must be fair, right? But what is fair? Let's proceed. Fair test is a test being conducted in the experiment in order to make sure that you change one factor at a time while keeping all other conditions the same. You must consider three things in fair testing. So there are only three things that you need to consider, remember, and do while doing fair test. First, materials or things that vary or change. So the first one, there are materials or things that changes. Two, materials to be kept constant or keep the same. Things that are being measured. What do you call these things or materials? These are known as variables. There are three types of variables that can be controlled, independent, or dependent. Remember, these materials or the things are called variables that we use in the experiment. So you must identify what the variables are, so you can check if that variable must be changed, must be controlled, or must be kept constant. All right. So these are the three types of variable. The independent variable, also called as manipulated, you intentionally changed it. Intentionally, it is your purpose to change it. Only one independent variable and experiment. So I will be discussing thoroughly what these are as we go through the lesson. Dependent variable, also called as responding variable. When we say responding variable, this is the result of what you did to the independent variable. This is the result. This is what we measure, the dependent variable, the responding variable. The effect of this independent variable, right? That you measure or observe as data. And there can be one or more dependent variable in an experiment, all right? But to make it a precise and easy way, only consider one dependent variable. Only measure only one. And then we have the controlled variables. The factors or conditions that are kept the same, or we are sometimes this is called constant variables, but in other books, controlled variables are the variables that do not receive any treatment in the experiment. Alright? So independent, the one that is being changed or manipulated. Independent, the responding variable, and the control variable kept unchanged. Alright? So let's take an example. The problem is, does changing the color of light affect the growth of rate of plants? So you want to know the effect of growth. You want to know the effect of light to the growth of rate of plants. Light, color of light. So what will you do? You have to change the colors of lights because you have to change the color of light. Changing the color of light. Color of lights is the change variable, or that is the independent variable that is being changed. All right. Effect to the growth rate of plants. So therefore, you will measure the growth rate of plants. Since it is being measured, then therefore that is the dependent variable. All right. So what are the things that you must keep constant to make it fair, so that there is only one effect, the color of lights. Therefore, you have to use the same time of plants, same wattage of bulb, same amount of water, same soil, same time. All right. What is same time? Same time of exposure of this light to the plants. Right? Sorry, it's exposure of plants to the lights. So if blue, or if plants exposed to blue lights for 3 minutes, it must also be exposed to red lights in 3 minutes. So same time exposure to the color of lights. So these are the controlled variables. How many variables do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why same type of plants? Because other plants may react to different colors of light. So for you to measure the effect of the color change, only use the same time of plant. Why same wattage of bulb? Because as the wattage increases, the intensity of light also increases. So therefore, it may change also to the reaction of the plant. So therefore, you have to. All right, let's take this activity. Anna wants to know which vinegar is the most reactive to baking soda. The baking soda. She prepared 3 transparent glasses. Each glass has 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 50 ml of vinegar A, 15 ml of vinegar B, so there are different vinegars, and 15 ml vinegar C. Then she observes the reaction of each type of vinegar to baking soda, then records it. This vinegar B is the most reactive to baking soda. So this is the experimental setup. So this is the first glass. 1 teaspoon of baking soda in a 15 ml of vinegar A. 1 teaspoon baking soda, 15 ml of vinegar B. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 15 ml of vinegar C. All right. Take note of this. So you might write all the informations, questions, and analyze the data first. We have the glass 1, 2, 3, amount of vinegar, all 15 ml, make amount of baking soda, all 1 teaspoon, and this is the observed reaction. Vinegar A, less reactive. Vinegar B, which is on the glass 2, most reactive. And 3, the vinegar C, more reactive. All right, so question. Write this on a piece of paper. Choose the answer to the following questions from the option below. Write on a separate sheet. Which of the following materials are not the same? Amount of baking soda, based from the table, you have to choose the answer here. Type of vinegar, amount of vinegar, reaction of vinegar to baking soda, right? What are the materials factors that stay the same? So based from the table again, amount of baking soda, type of vinegar, amount of vinegar, reaction of vinegar to baking soda. Keep the same or kept the same, right? So materials factors and S. So write all the possible answers. What is being measured in the activity or the result? Amount of baking soda, type of vinegar, amount of vinegar, reaction of vinegar to baking soda. Which is more, which is less, more, and most reactive? Vinegar A, vinegar B, vinegar C, right? So you have to write, if it's vinegar A, write less. If it's vinegar B, write less, so on and so forth, right? Write your answer in a separate sheet of paper. What is the problem that we wanted to solve in the activity? So going back to the activity, what do you think is the best problem that we wanted to solve? Which type of vinegar is most reactive to baking soda? Which type of baking soda is most reactive to vinegar? Most amount of vinegar is most... Oh, sorry. What amount of vinegar is most reactive to baking soda? Will the vinegar react on different amount of baking soda? So remember, fair test is making sure that you change one factor at a time while keeping all other conditions the same. Change, measure, and keep the same are the factors that affect the test. Variable is any factor that can be controlled, changed, and measured. Types of variable are independent, dependent, and controlled variables. This provides the input, which is modified to change the output. This is called a change, or also known as independent variable. There are three things that are kept the same each time one of these trials in the experiment is repeated. This factor is known as the kept or constant variable. Alright? What is being measured? Called dependent variable. Conducting a fair test is one of the most important ways of doing scientifically valuable experiment. So let's check your understanding. Drag and drop the correct answer on the proper box, but you cannot drag and drop it. All you have to do is just to answer. Alright? What are the things that are kept the same? What are the things that changes? What are the things that are measured? How does the temperature of the water affect the time it takes the sugar to dissolve? So if it's change, you make a table like this, copy and make a table on a piece of paper, and you choose your answer from this given options, independent, dependent, and place it to the proper boxes. All right, let's proceed to the post test. If you're done with all the things, activities, you may proceed to the post test, making sure that you change in one factor. If you could see, the post test and pre-test are just the same, just to measure if you have learned something on the lesson discussed. Write it on a separate sheet of paper. So again, making sure that you change one factor at a time while keeping all other conditions the same. They have the factors, variables, fair test, and scientific method. These are the things that are kept the same each time one of the trials and the experiment is repeated. Fair test, methods, variables, trials. It is the effect of the result of the experiment and what is measured, independent variables, factors, dependent variable, or controlled variable.